Yeah.
Catchy things, but you just very few solos. So that's a major characteristic of heavy metal. There's usually lots of time for the guitars to go wheelie 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 wheelie, and then the motorcycle sound wheelie wheelie wheelie.
Well, that does answer the question, and it's not what you would deem as heavy metal. So aggressiveness is how you would describe heavy metal?
How would I describe heavy metal?
Yeah, how would you describe heavy metal? How do people describe heavy metal? I don't know. I just hear the term, and I know the groups that are associated with it.
Right. I guess since heavy metal's inception, it's now everything has become so subcategorized and subgenre that I can't keep up with it anymore.
But you would describe this as being more close to punk, though, post-punk.
They like to say post-punk.
That's what they say.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a rock band.
Yeah, that's how I thought of it. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
And well,
listeners, go to the Death in Memphis Facebook page. Listen to, I think they got a song up there, Don't Mean a Thing. Listen, you decide. You tell us what you think it is.
Yeah. And then get back to us. It is really interesting to revisit that whole world of going to the bar gig of the band, the rock band playing at a bar. I haven't done that in years. And
well, we haven't. Obviously, it's been about 10 years since I've performed in Joliet. Then here's what we've been experiencing. When Death in Memphis plays, the places in Chicago and around the suburbs of Chicago, we get drink tickets. They don't question the girlfriends and the people that are coming in.
Right.
When Wendy and I go to record, we get, we're treated like kings and queens, same deal. We go to Joliet, no guest list. Wendy's got to pay to get in.
Yeah, Wendy told us that.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. And just that first experience, that first half hour that we were there, I'm like, oh, I am never playing
Joliet again.
Yes. It eventually turned out that the crowd was good. A lot of people came out to see us that otherwise wouldn't come out. And why would you drive all the way to Chicago to see a 30 or 45 minute set? So I'm very appreciative of the people that come out whenever they do.
Yeah, we didn't know it was going to be that late, and it turned out to be not. I thought you were going to do like a 2-hour show, and you just did a 45-minute set, and we were very concerned because Marge had to get up early to go to Chicago the next day for a rehearsal. I thought, oh boy, we might have to miss the end of this. But it's like, especially, we originally saw the little poster that said 9:00, but we weren't thinking that there were other bands opening for you guys. There were 2 other bands that opened?
Two other bands. In the first, here's what happened. They had what was supposed to be the opening band ready to go on stage, and then I wasn't there for this, but what was supposed to be the second band, I guess there was some minors
in the band.
I don't know if they were in the band or what happened. I think one of them was a minor, so they almost weren't going to play, and they worked it out with the management where they'd play first and they'd get the hell out of there.
Oh, okay.
So they had to tear down the first band's equipment.
Oh, okay.
And so it was a bit of a mess.
Well, that's one of those hinky gray area things with just having a place like that and offering live music. You're also dealing with this unknown factor of the bands coming in. Who is attached to how old are the people in the band? How old are their fans? And they got their liquor license that they got to worry about.
Right.
And they're probably up in Chicago that they turn a blind eye to a lot of that. But this is technically not even Joliet. They're on the Crest Hill side of Theodore there.
Right, yeah.
So, but it's I'd call that the Crest Hill frontier.
There's a Crest Hill Police Department, isn't there?
Yeah.
They're probably jerks, right? Small
I
town,
know.
rural.
Probably. I have a friend, an old college friend, who was, to help pay for his college, became a Crest Hill cop for a while. He had some great stories. Pat Skelton. Hey, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
He's of Irish descent. He's got some. His father was. I hope I'm not speaking on it. Maybe I shouldn't talk about his father's political things in Ireland. You can just fill in the blanks for yourself there. But
Was he related to Red?
no, he was no miming hobos in his family at all. I was trying to think a good description of Red Skelton, but he had just some great stories about being a Crest Hill cop, and I guess one story was he answered a domestic disturbance call and knocked on the front door, and the door was opened by the screaming wife holding a gun in her hand, and his response was he just ran full force right into her. He just ran into her, knocked her over. And that's terrifying thinking of him. If you knew Pat, he was an actor, he did plays with us, And the mindset that you'd have to get into to act like a cop in a situation like that. The other thing that which reminded me of talking about cops at Crest Hill, he answered a call from a bar where a big fight had broken out. He pulled up to the bar just in time to see another cop being thrown through the picture window. Stop. And he had all kinds of. He had a lot of violence in his life. He worked for the I guess it was the CTA, taking quarters and stuff at the little pay booth, and he had one of his jobs was to take the big bags of quarters and deposit it in the night deposit slide of the bank. This is at 3 a.m. And one time he was walking just all by himself and sees this big group of young toughs coming towards him. And he said he just thought, well, I guess I'm going to get beat up now. And he said as they came up to him, he just took the bag of quarters and swung at one of the guy's heads. And he said that's the last thing he remembers. They just danced all over him. He woke up in the hospital. They just beat the ever-loving crap out of him. Yeah. So, hey, Pat, I don't know if this podcast will ever... Joe Baltz might listen to this, and I think Joe's still in touch with Pat.
Yeah, I mentioned that Crest Hill cops were jerks, but in all honesty, I could never do that job, and I can't imagine how... because whenever you're called to anything, you have to immediately be ready for completely irrational behavior.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine showing up anywhere knowing that you're going to walk right into the middle of this.
Yeah, every call is probably something like that. Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Well, he didn't do it for very long. I think he was only a cop maybe a year. Mm-hmm. But that's back... Think of that. We have, friends who have become policemen in little towns. And they got to go through a really regimented acceptance process where they got to get, recommendations, and they have to take classes, and they have to... This is more of a thing like...
They have to get tased.
Yeah! This is a thing where... this was in the early 70s, late 60s, but it sounds like he just kind of answered an ad in the paper, need cops. Okay, you're hired.
That's probably how it was back then.
It's just like a part-time job. Okay, here's your gun. Here's your badge.
Cop needed.
Cop needed. Needed one cop. Apply within. Hey, fellas, I'm here for the cop job. All right, you're hired. It's like an old 1930s movie. But, he didn't have any other qualifications. He was a student. He was a young guy. He was in his early 20s. and he's running, he's walking, doing a beat.
It's interesting that obviously times have changed, and the procedure for becoming a cop is a lot more intense. They're obviously trying to screen out some riffraff, but it obviously has made no difference.
No, there's always going to be bad cops. There's always good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
It's always that. It's like in any profession. That is the way it is. It's like, oh, I wonder what the janitors are like over in that high school. Some good janitors, some bad janitors.
Yeah.
It's every profession has both kinds of people in it. And speaking of cops and getting arrested, you recently posted on Facebook a mugshot of yourself in Olympia Fields. You looked like you were like 20 years old.
Yeah, probably about 20.
And so now what was the story there? Were you picked up for speeding or?
Yeah, picked up for speeding on a suspended license.
Oh.
And it was suspended for, speeding. Youth.
How long did you spend in the pokey on that?
They didn't actually, they took me down to the station. But it was actually Country Club Hills.
Oh.
And this guy was a real Barney Fife.
Oh,
He
okay.
was a real Barney Fife.
Okay.
Hey,
young man, you can't be driving around on a suspended license like this.
Asked me to step out of the car, and I don't have a license, and okay, well, I'm gonna have to arrest you. And he actually had me spread my hands over the trunk. He patted me down, and then he says, "Got any pot in the car?" Because we were mentioning in an earlier podcast,
Yeah.
Cops would always pull me over. I don't know why. My hair is probably longer now than it was then.
Yeah, your hair doesn't look that long in the picture.
Yeah, and like why? Well, anyway.
I tell you, in that mugshot, you had a smirk on your face. You're a wise-ass kid.
There's a reason, I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to hear it.
So they cuff me, put me in the squad, take me down there, and this Barney Fife, while he's filling out the report, at his desk, there's a chair next to his desk, he handcuffs me to the wall.
That is right out of Mayberry.
Right. It's like, this is a traffic violation,
Yeah.
a speeding ticket. So he fills out the report. He goes, all right, I got to go make a copy. And I said, I'll wait right here.
Okay.
And he's going to be... They never laughed. But
No.
so it's like, okay, now we got to fingerprint you. Fingerprint, he says, all right, we got to take your mug shot over here. So he snaps the shot. And I said, hey, I don't intend on doing this again. I said, would it be possible for me to get another picture from my scrapbook? and Barney Fife says, he goes, I don't know. Let me go talk to the sergeant. And he walks out of the room like this. I'm walking out of the room, listeners. And I don't hear anything.
Uh-huh.
And then Barney Fife just walks right back in and says, Sergeant said it's okay. So that's why I have a
So you're
smirk on my
smiling.
face. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a friendly storm. They're trying to keep up this hard-ass image, but it's like, the kid wants a copy of. He must like our pictures.
Yeah. So then, because I knew what the routine was, and they didn't stop me from speeding.
Uh-huh.
I had probably a few more.
Were you on your way to
Work,
any places? Just going to work.
Late for work. But there was one, I forget which county this was. It was a state cop that got me this time. And so I knew all about I-bonds and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, you're going to have to post bond. I said, I don't, and I just was in no mood for it again. And I said, well, I don't have any money on me. We're going to have to call a friend. I said, I don't have any friends here. We're going to have to call family. I said,